Hi everyone, today's March 14th, 2020, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is Green Ranger. This week is a very chill week in uncertain times. In the world of, in Duel World, we're going to talk about a lot of esports today, I think. Hasn't been a ton going on in the game except for the Turbo Duel Grand Prix, which is in its second week, I believe. It began very late last week. I talked about the new cards from that last week, so I'll talk about some of the meta decks winning tournaments. Pick a Gift campaign as a new card and a second copy of another card. Duel Quest as another second copy of a card. We're going to finally talk about Blair Flannigan today. Her level up rewards. We'll talk about those cards. There's some Lightsworn synergy going on there, so that they're important cards. And also her unique duel skills, which have seemed to have zero impact on the game so far. About it. I spent a lot of time talking about esports today. Hopefully, talk about things more in depth. All right, so it's it's a topic that everyone has been talking about, and it has affected me in some ways. Currently I am at home in self-quarantine, and that's because I do work in hospitals. I am a lung cancer researcher specifically. I talk to people who have lung cancer. I do surveys with them, things like that. And on Thursday, I was at a clinic where someone who previously had a cancer surgery, not lung cancer, it's a different type of cancer in the thoracic area. He got a CAT scan, and the patients, for example, they get their CT scans, and then they go see a doctor to see the findings. They detected similarities on the CAT scan to COVID-19, and that's, you could spot those things in the lungs. It's a new thing that they found, and they let this guy got scanned and is in the waiting area, is waiting to see the doctors. He got through everything, and then they found out, they read the CAT scan and found these things out. So this guy was just walking around, and he was probably exposing himself, but he was exposed to patients and other healthcare providers, security, all that stuff. So that is why I am in self-quarantine. I did not personally see the guy, so my only exposure is secondhand. So that is my brush with COVID-19, and future days. I still have to go to work, which I'm not going to talk about that, but we'll see what happens. But okay, let's go back to Duel Links. That is it for that. I've been leveling up my DSOD characters this week to get gems and open up packs. Most of the DSOD characters have two. They all do. They all have two levels, 32 and 34, I believe, that they give 450 gems total. So I'm getting through those characters. I think I still have Joey. I've done Kaiba, Mokuba, Scud, and Sarah already. So Joey's the last one. And I've been trying to get those gems to buy that new, that's not new anymore, it's 2 weeks in, Judgment Force. Trying to get my extra copies of the Lightsworn cards. And in that process, I'll also build Luna Lights and have all of the cards that I need for that archetype, which is an easy King of Games deck. But this week, the Turbo Duel Grand Prix has these extra rewards in the max level, and it's been a grind. Like, I've been playing less than 50% win rate. Currently I'm in the yellow level, which means I'm average, and you have to be pretty below 50% to be that level. But frankly, the Turbo Duel Grand Prix hasn't been too successful in my opinion. There hasn't really been problems with disconnects or anything like that, but there isn't really a meta. Everyone's just running their decks. No one's really. I did see a guy who played the Trickster skill, which is very, very uncommon, and they did it with direct attackers. It was very annoying. It was like a Taya dual standby type deck with Sky Star Ray and direct attackers that banish themselves. It was a very annoying deck. But that was someone who actually did think about it. Think about a deck that matched the skill. And no one else is really doing that. Everyone's just playing their decks. And really, no one has really gotten into Turbo Duel Grand Prix making decks that specifically fit that. So, it feels like we're just playing ranked, even though it doesn't count for ranked. It counts for the overall rewards, I guess. That's something. But I'm trying to get through all the rewards, and I think I'm rank 4 in the max level, so I still have a little ways to go to get my gems. Like I'm saying, I'm playing less than 50%, and yeah, less than 50%, and it takes a while. In ranked, I am playing Lightsworn still, Legend 1. I reset the box. I'm in the second buy through. I'm trying to get my second Judgment Dragon. I still don't have 3 Charge of the Light Brigade. I still have 2. I don't really care about getting a third Raiden, but I get it when I get one. And so I've been playing like my other characters just to level them up, but I've realized that Spell Specialist is probably the way to go with Lightsworns. I tried playing Heavy Starter. Heavy Starter gets you the Judgment Dragon early, which is great, but you're also bricked up with the other level 5s or higher. Chaos Hunter's not bad to have as one of those cards, so you could set it up on the board and prevent your opponent from banishing things early on. But I also have Graganif, which is just, it's going to clunk up your hand. It's a huge beater in the late game, but it's just going to clog up your hand, so Heavy Starter's not ideal. In my Spell Specialist probably is, because you start off with your really good spell cards. So Spell Specialist needs you to have 5 different spell cards. You're going to have Charge of the Light Brigade. You're going to have Solar Recharge. You could probably fit in one Grass Looks Greener. I don't know at what point too much disposal becomes too much disposal for Lightsworns, but you could fit one in. The other 2 cards I have in my deck right now is Night Beam and Special Hurricane. Special Hurricane has discard synergies, so you could just discard a Lightsworn, destroy all special summon monsters on the field. Very good. And Night Beam's just back row control in these times. This 30 card deck, I won the last few games with it though, so it's pretty good. See how it goes. Alright, so let's talk about esports, talk about these more in depth. Duel Links Meta Championship Series number 28 happened last week, and let's talk about Lightsworns. They've completely they haven't made it, even with these pre-nerf meta that Duel Links Meta has put in. They're not really there. We're seeing other decks creep up though. Gladiator Beasts are doing pretty well. Thunder Dragons are doing pretty well. Crystons have shot up. That's why they've achieved max rank in this tournament community. Blue Eyes are doing really well as well. Some of the same old decks as well. First place Buns, no mortal can resist Black Wings. Even though Lightsworn get killed by no mortal can resist, it's a really good skill in this meta against almost all these decks. Against Element Sabers, you turn all their Skull Servants into Dark Archetypes, and Invoked Caliga isn't really good. Blue Eyes, you turn everything into Skull Servants again. Dark Magician, sometimes it affects them the least. I think sometimes they can get the Dark Magician back, but you turn it into a Skull Servant, it's no good. Dark Lord, same thing. Lightsworns kills them. Shiranui, same thing. Blackwings don't really use the graveyard too much, except for Zephyros. So, this is the skill to use, and of course, no mortal can resist has to be activated when you have 1,000 less than your opponent. So, there's 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone for that. Black Whirlwind and Simoon will make you lose 1,000 life points too. So this deck doesn't really have a problem in getting below your opponent in life points. One thing to note about Black Wings is they put the semi-limit nerf on Erosia Squall, and it's still being played over other cards like Treacherous Trap Hole, Hey Trunade, World Legacy Clash. Really good semi-limit cards are being replaced by Erosia Squall. And there's also this package with Harmattan the Dust. Well, I say package, but there are other monsters that exist with it. And Panaki the Waxing Moon as the other tuner, a level 3 tuner with Gale. And these three monsters are put in with the ones you always see: Simoon, Bora the Spear, Gale, and Chris the Crack of Dawn. Always a three of typically. So this is a very core list here. 3 Simoons, 2 Bora, 2 Gale, 1 Panaki, 3 Chris, 1 Harmattan, 1 Orochi, 3 Black Whirlwind, 2 Cosmic, 3 Blackbird Close. Blackbird Close is the archetype counter trap that destroys effect monsters, negate and destroy activation type card, and then you could cheat out your big synchro monster, Black Winged Dragon. So this is a very core list of what the No Mortal Can Resist Black Wings look like right now. Second place, Wayne Kenoff with Crystons, Transcendent Crystal Crystons. This guy hit up the top 4 in many tournaments, and he pretty much shot up Crystons himself. And, you know, with the Crystons, you just have this 30-card deck. They all destroy themselves. Scrap Recyclers are pretty common in the deck. You have 2 Crystal Beasts, a lot of the tuners, every single Cryston monster in here. And then the back row is just stuff to counter the meta. 1 Cosmic Cyclone, 3 Forbidden Lance, 2 World Legacy Clash, 2 Cryston Impact, and Shadow Imprisoning Mirror is back. Top 4, Haru, Destiny Draw, Element Saber Invoked. So, Element Sabers were the target of the limit 3 nerf on Cosmic Cyclone. Cosmic Cyclone shares a list with the field spell. As predicted, there are no more Cosmic Cyclones in the deck. You need 3 copies of the field spell to play Element Sabers. That's a given. So with Cosmic Cyclone gone, the deck is running Destiny Draw instead of Sorcery Conduit. And, this deck is just going to lose life points to win. To get to Destiny Draw. And there's, 1 copy of Concentrating Current, semi-limited card. That just makes them explosive with any of their invoked monsters. They all have pretty high defense. And they just threw in their best trap cards to make 21 cards. Fiendish Chain, 3 Floodgates, Bad Aim, 2 Wall of D, and then like a toolbox of the monsters as well. So very, the deck didn't change much, frankly. They got away without using Cosmic Cyclone. In the side deck, they do have 1 Cosmic Cyclone, I guess in case they want to swap out a field, and 2 Night Beams, Unending Nightmare as well. And top 4, Kaito, Baggy Sleeves, Thunder Dragons. So this is a sleeper Chaos deck. Light Sworns were not the Chaos deck. This was the Chaos deck. A lot going on here. 30-card deck. Thunder Dragon core is 3 Dragon Hawks, 2 Dragon Darks, 2 Dragon Duo, 3 Dragon Roar, 2 Dragon Matrix, 3 Aloof Lupines, 3 Gold Sarcophagus. You also have some other things going on here. 2 Artifact Vajras, 2 Plague Spreaders, 2 Glow Up Blooms, Bulbs, 3 Sphere Kribos, 2 Econs, and the card that I said was going to get some play, Amaterasu. This is Sarah's level 35 card. You should definitely get this card. Straight up bomb on the board when you can get this effect off. It's kind of a dead giveaway, though, because you have to set 2. You have to tribute set 2 cards. You play in defense mode. It may catch some people on surprise, but you flip it up and then you banish everything on the board. That's huge. I think the only card that could maybe get past this is like Aaron the Lightsworn Monk or Red Dragon Archfiend. Certain cards that won't flip up the monster in defense mode, but this will end the game against your opponent when you do play it. And I guess Thunder Dragons do a very good job of getting monsters onto the board. Okay, so that is Duel Links Meta Championship Series 28. Let's talk about Meta Weekly 115. Blue Eyes were the most represented deck here. Really, the meta is super unsettled. In the top 32, Crystons, Element Saber, Shiranui, Blue Eyes, Cyber Dragons, Dark Magician, Thunder Dragons, all fighting for spots here. First place, Jason, Alternative Evolution Blue Eyes. So this is the new playstyle of Blue Eyes. They use Alternative Evolution to turn up Blue Eyes into Alternative Dragon. They pop a card on the board, and then you get a tuner out, and you turn that into a level 9. The level 9 could be anything like Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, Vermilion Dragon Mech, or Azure Eyes Silver Dragon. It's sort of a combo deck. They do a lot of things to control the board multiple times, and then they put it like a big synchro monster onto the board. It's a very common ladder deck, so let's just go through the deck. 1, Maiden with Eyes of Blue. 3, White Stone of Ancients. 2, Dragon Spirits of White. 3, Sage with Eyes of Blue. 1, White Stone of Legend. 2, Cosmo Brain. 3, Blue Eyes. 3, Cards of Consonance. 1, Mausoleum of White. And 2, Raigeki Break. Extra deck is 2 Blue Eyes Spirit Dragons. 1, Vermilion Dragon Mech. 2, Azure Eyes Silver Dragon. And 1, Gigantic Castle. Second place, Yusei with No Mortal Can Resist Dark Magician. This version of Dark Magician does not have that anti-banish component. That was something that was very popular in Dark Magician decks. It seemed to have fallen out with Shiranui going away a little bit. And, they've got general trap cards here. 2 Treacherous Trap Hole, 2 Paleozoic Canadia, and they have side deck cards. Herald of the Abyss to help lose some life points. Cosmic Cyclone also. And that's just help trigger No Mortal Can Resist. Up 4, Wayne Kenoff. Kristrons again. Pretty much the same deck he brought from the World Meta Championship Series, using Econ instead of World Legacy Clash as the semi-limited card. Finally, top 4, Uchiha Leandro with Sorcery Conduit, Element Saber Invoked. 25 card build. Sticking with Sorcery Conduit despite not using Cosmic Cyclone. And the only card he has to lose life points is 2 copies of Mirror Wall. 2 Night Beams replace Cosmic Cyclone. Night Beam's a really good card. Kind of happy that Cosmic Cyclone was hit because it was just used everywhere. And last esports tournament I'm going to talk about is Duel Links Taiwan Weekly number 93, a 2-deck format here. First place, this translates to Moon Dance. It's Alternative Evolution Blue Eyes. This is a cool way to play Blue Eyes because there's other cards in it. 2 Raikou Lightsworn Hunter. This helps you, destroy a card in the field and send top 3 cards in your deck to the graveyard. And, of course, as a Lightsworn player, the best thing about Raikou, non-target destroy. Great against the cats. There's also 3 Divine Rafts in this deck to help destroy those monsters that activate effects, which is seemingly every monster. These counter traps are really good in the meta. Effect, negation, and destroy on a monster. I might just run this in my Lightsworn deck. It's just good card. And then Moondance also brought No Mortal Can Resist Hero deck. This is just a masked hero deck, except the regular D heroes are mostly gone. Got 2 Stratus, 1 Decider, that's the only D hero, original D hero. 1 Blazeman, 3 Solid Soldiers, 1 Vision Hero Vion, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Form Change, 1 Forbidden Chalice, 3 Mass Change, 1 Polymerization, 2 Phoenix Chain, 2 Treacherous Trap Hole. Extra deck, 2 Enki, 1 Diane, 1 Blast, 1 Vision Hero Adoration, and 1 Trinity. Second place, No Transcendent Crystals Kristrons. Again, this one runs 2 Hate Trunades, so it's kind of the aggro build, I guess. And then No Mortal Can Resist Black Wings. Same deck as before. 3 Cosmic Cyclones to help the No Mortal Can Resist. 2 Blackbird Clothes. I guess they swapped like 3 and 2 sometimes. Still have Orochi the Squall. Top 4, Core GG, No Mortal Can Resist Black Wings. It seems like this is going to be like a top tier deck sooner or later. Same build. They do run a copy of Zephyros the Elite as an extra monster though. Less back row. Only 2 Black Whirlwinds, 2 Cosmic, 2 Blackbird Clothes, and Power of the Dark Magician. This is kicking it old school. You've got Artifact Lancia and Knight and Sorcerer as the anti-banish component here. They are running Power of the Dark for some reason. And top 4, Dark Mystery. 2 copies, 2 different decks of Element Saber Invoked, Sorcery Conduit build. The first one's a very heavy control version. A lot of ways to lose life points with Mirror Wall and Unending Nightmare. Unending Nightmare is their way to control the back row. And Sorcery Conduit, Element Saber Invoked. This one has 2 Chaos Hunters. This is the spicy version. You got 2 Chaos Hunters and running 2 copies of System Down. Pay 1,000 life points. Banish all machines your opponent controls in their graveyard. This serves 2 purposes. Cristrons are good enough to get counters now. So System Down will just end Cristrons. And this also gets rid of those annoying Kiteroids in the graveyard. So 2 functions of System Down. So with the tournaments, MCS specifically, Duel Links Meta has updated their tier list. We have new tier 1 decks. Element Sabers are back. And Cristrons are here. Cristrons, I'll say this though, tier list takes into account a lot of tournament formats. Even if you're not playing, I'll put it this way. If you're playing ranked ladder, you're probably not going to see a lot of Cristrons. I'll just say that right now. They're more of a tournament deck. People just don't understand how to play them. They're not a deck that people run on the ladder a ton. You might see a few, but they won't be tier 1 on the ladder. You just won't see a ton of them. Tier 2, Blue Eyes have been promoted. This is, Blue Eyes are legit. You see them all the time. Dark Magician has been demoted to tier 2, and then you still have Black Wings and Dark Lords. Yeah, pretty good. I'd say Blue Eyes might hit tier 1 soon. I don't know. In ladder format, they're probably tier 1. Tier 3 is really crowded. We got new promotions in Glad Beasts, Luna Lights, Thunder Dragons. Shiranui have been bumped down tier 3. Cyber Dragon are still there. Luna Lights are probably a higher tier deck in ladder formats, but in tournament formats, they're less good. Glad Beasts are showing up a good amount in the ladder as well. Thunder Dragons are a deck that you won't see a ton, I think. Shiranui, you'll probably see more than you would expect in the ladder. And finally, Lightsworns are off the tier list. If they don't come back on the tier list, it might be a colossal failure for them. Everyone was expecting big things from the deck, and we'll have to wait and see with the nerfs of how well Lightsworns do. But right now, they are off this tier list. Alright, let's get to the Pick a Gift campaign. There's one new card here and a card we're getting a second copy of. The card we're getting a second copy of is Cyber Gymnast, and this is the first time we're talking about this card since we got Alexis, so it's been years. Level 4 Earth Warrior, 800, 1800. Once per turn, you can discard 1 card, target 1 face-up attack position your monster controls, destroy that target. So, this card, obviously, these monsters who are limited to 1 as level up reward cards, they're probably pretty good. And they would have been OP if we got 3 copies of this card at the time. When we got Alexis, that was probably 2 years ago, so maybe more than that. So this card was very ahead of its time, but it was never really part of an archetype. No one played Cyber Girls, and this card on its own, discard 1, target 1 face-up attack position, destroy it. It's a little situational, but pretty good. It has some combos. You could toss Plague Spreader Zombie now, Glow Up Bulb, remove a monster, and then Synchro Summon. This is also a warrior card you can put in a Red Eye Slash deck. Overall, this card is decent, but it doesn't have a home right now. And cards are typically archetype synergies, are very strong, very important things. This card just never had a home, and getting 2 copies probably still won't see any play. Cyber Girls aren't really an archetype, so that's the bottom line of Cyber Gymnast. New card, Twilight Ninja Ninchiri. Oh, shoot, I screwed this up. Twilight Ninja Nichiren, the Chunin. That's quite a handful. Level 6 Warrior Dark 2300 1000. Once per turn during either player's turn, you can discard one ninja monster, activate one of these effects. This turn, ninja monsters and ninjutsu art cards you control cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. So those things respectively. I guess the ninjas can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and then the art cards, they can never be destroyed by battle, but they can't be destroyed by card effects. Other effect, one ninja monster you control gains 1000 attack until the end of this turn. Um, when the ninja mini box came out, it didn't really have much of an effect on the meta at all, really. Um, but with the nerfs coming, we don't really know if ninjas can creep up as a lower tier deck. My guess is no, but you never know. We're just getting one copy of this card, and it's a support card you kind of want on the board. To protect the ninja monsters and the ninjutsu arts, and also give attack during your turn when you're attacking. So keep this card on the board, and your cards will survive. This doesn't protect them from banish though. They could get sent to the graveyard, so that's something they can get by card effect destruction, and then the ninjutsu art cards can also be hit by cosmic cyclones. So there's a lot that can happen that can get by the protection ability of this monster. This does have synergy with a card called Twilight Ninja Getsuga the Shogun. You can discard, high cost ninjas with this card, and then you can get Tribute Summon Shogun, and then you can use Shogun to bring two of them back from the graveyard. So there's some kind of combo there, but this is just a one of. I don't expect this to make too much of an impact on the meta at all. It is a nice little support card for ninjas, though. Give them something to play with. Alright, let's move on to Duel Quest. There's not a whole lot going on with Duel Quest, just free rewards, but second copy of Dark Magic Curtain, the first copy since we got Arcana. So this is another card they're getting with two of, and it comes at a time where it's not that needed. A spell card, pay half of your life points, special summon one Dark Magician from your deck. You cannot summon other monsters the turn you activate this card, but you can set. So most Dark Magician decks don't even run this card. And it goes to say there are better cards around. Magician Navigation cheats out two cards from the deck, one Dark Magician, and then some other monster, so that's an immediate advantage over this card. Dark Magic Veil, pay 1,000, get a cheat out Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard. That one's nice. You lose some life points, and you also get it from hand or graveyard, but it has the disadvantage of not cheating out from the deck. Dark Magic Curtain, you pay more life points, you cheat out one from the deck, but then you can't summon other monsters. I think that's what kills Dark Magic Curtain, that second thing. You can't summon other monsters. What Dark Magic Curtain does well, though, is you could lose 2,000 life points, and use that to your advantage for activating a dual skill. Let's say you're playing Destiny Draw, you could trigger Destiny Draw with it. If you're playing some skill that needs 1,500 life point loss, like Sorcery Conduit now, this could work for that. Also, what was I gonna say? Let's say you're playing No Mortal Can Resist, and your opponent has 1,000 less than you. You pay 2,000 with this, and then you can trigger your No Mortal Can Resist. So, I'd say this is a caveat. This is, just where your dual skill lines up, where you have to lose that many life points. That is when you'll play Dark Magic Curtain. It's not a card that'll go away completely. It's not exactly the card you want to run in Dark Magician now with so many good options, but it definitely is a budget choice. Let's say you're missing some Magician navigations. You'll play Dark Magic Curtain. It's not, it's not the end of the world. It helps the deck get to where it needs to go. It helps trigger dual skills, and it's a budget option at this point. It's time for the last filler content, something that was long neglected, Blair Flannigan's level up rewards and unique dual skills. There's only two flavors of cards that her level up rewards currently come in. There's like the Pikaru and Quran. Not really a thing. It's like a artwork thing. And then the Twilight Sworns, which are They have some meta implications if Lightsworns ever get there, but Lightsworns are definitely a deck that's fun to build and use. It's fun to use these pieces to help build it as well. Let's get to her level up rewards in order of appearance. 3 copies of Pikaru's Second Sight trap card. Until your opponent's second end phase, your opponent shows you all the cards that they draw before adding them to their hand. So, this type of effect where you could spy on your opponent, it's kind of like a test of good players versus bad players. Good players who know the meta should know what cards are in a deck. Of course, in Yu-Gi-Oh, it's hard to say since there's a million cards and you could just pull out some secret twist. But playing with percentages, you know what core cards are in a deck. You should know what your opponent's drawing. And this is just extra stuff that it's more fun than worth the deck space. Our deck spaces are small in these speed duels. This kind of effect is a bit extra. You should be able to predict what it is your opponent has in their deck based on the meta. So that's all I have to say about this card. More fun than good. Next up is Jane Twilight Sworn General. Level 4 Warrior, Dark 1800-1200. Once per turn, you can banish 1 Lightsworn monster from your hand or graveyard. Target 1 face-up monster on the field. It loses attack and defense equal to the banished monster's level times 300 until the end of this turn. Once per turn, if your other Lightsworn monster's effect is activated, send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So, Lightsworns have a ton of monster options. And this is one that unfortunately doesn't make the cut as you're paring down your deck list. And the meta still hasn't figured out for sure. After all the nerfs go live for sure, Lightsworns will be reevaluated. But the Twilight Sworn aren't played a ton from what I could tell. There are some core Twilight Sworns. The Lila Twilight Sworn is pretty good in the meta against continuous spells, namely Dark Magic Circle. The Raikou Twilight Sworn, which I'll talk about, is pretty good in being a normal summon banish. Jane Twilight Sworn reduces monster attack, which is useful in late game situations when you can afford to do that, but then you're battling a monster and that's what you're doing. Ideally with Lightsworns, you're playing your Judgment Dragon, you're blowing up the board, you're playing some kind of synchro summon to affect the board. Jane is kind of like a one-on-one fighter who will win you some fights, otherwise he's just an 1800. It just doesn't make the cut when you're making your list, but let's say you have some 30-card Lightsworn deck, you're playing some kind of chaos strategy, or you're playing, if Twilight Sworns become a thing, this card would be there, but right now it's just on the outside looking in the Lightsworn deck right now. Next up is Mutually Afford Destruction, trap card. Both players must keep their hands revealed this turn. While their hands are revealed by this effect, if they both have a card with the same name in their hands, neither player can activate cards of that name or their effects. Very interesting lockdown card. This is decent when the meta becomes bland and everyone's playing the same exact cards. This could be useful against Cosmic Cyclone, for example. In the mirror, this could also be really good. You could activate this before your opponent's turn begins, so you kind of lock them out, and then that limits their options, and you can react to that. This definitely has appeal in the side deck format when the meta becomes very monotone. And I think in Yu-Gi-Oh! And Duel Links, there's always been a good variety. Maybe if we were in the Cyber Angel meta, this would have been okay. Certain metas where a high percentage of decks were playing the same exact archetype, this would have been good there. But I think there's enough diversity right now, and as the game goes on, there will be more and more diversity. I don't know, maybe eventually when XZs comes, there's going to be one super good deck and everyone's playing that deck. This might be when this card shines, but right now this is only a card you would consider in a tournament setting, a side deck, if everyone is playing the same exact deck. Next up is Raikou Twilight Sworn Fighter, Level 2, Dark Beast, 200, 100. If this is normal summoned or flipped face up, you can banish one Lightsworn monster from your hand or graveyard, banish one card on the field. Once per turn, if your other Lightsworn monster's effect is activated, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard. This one's a pretty good one for the Lightsworns. Just the ability, normal summon, banish, non-target, mind you, any card on the field. Any opponent card on the... Well, it's any card, yeah. So, yeah, really good. Pretty much free. You can banish anything. So, these, the Raikos, typically you run like 1 or 2 of them. You run a light one and a dark one. Typically how it goes. Yeah, not much to say. This one works as being normal summoned or flipped face up. I personally like just normal summoning it, because when it's face down, it could activate something and it gets destroyed without even flipping up. The Lightsworn Raikou is a flip effect. This one just works on a normal summon, so that's a huge advantage there. Of course, you don't get to send cards to the graveyard like Lightsworn Raikou does, but and also this card is vulnerable. It's 200 attack. You leave it out in the field, you get blown up. That has happened to me many times, but I think the banish is worth it. Punishment Dragon. This is a card we get 3 copies of as well. Level 8 Dragon, 3000, 2600. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned from your hand by possessing 4 or more banished Lightsworn monsters with different names. Once per turn, quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life points, shuffle into the decks all cards in the graveyards and all face-up banished cards except for Lightsworns. Once per turn, if your Lightsworn monster's effect is activated, send the top 4 cards of your deck to the graveyard. This is the Twilight version of the Judgment Dragon, and this one's a lot harder to summon, and as a result, you pretty much see it in no Lightsworn decks. To play this version, you have to run March of the Dark Brigade, or Dice It. Those are 2 cards that can help you banish your monsters, and you need 4 different banished ones to even get this out. So, it doesn't, and additionally, this card doesn't affect the board. It affects the graveyards and banish pile, which has advantages of its own. You could, Sealed Tombs / No Mortal Can Resist effects. This excels in that. This sends everything back and resets everything. Very useful ability. But it doesn't achieve the goal of a duel. The goal of the duel is affecting the board and ending your opponent's life points. That's how you win a duel. This one is a huge control ability. Sometimes clearing the graveyard is a way to affect the board. It doesn't affect the board, but it achieves the goal in ending your opponent's life points. Let's say there's a Kiteroid or a Bacon Saver in the graveyard. It does that, but affecting the board, clearing the board like Judgment Dragon does, is a better path towards ending your opponent's life points than this card does. It's hard to say. Lightsworns could go in the route of Twilight Sworn in the future, and then 2 of this card could be core. You could run your March of the Dark Brigades. You could run your Dice Its. There could be some deck down the line, but right now this card is definitely not in Lightsworns. Blair Flannigan's last reward is a 1-of called Twilight Eraser trap card. If you control 2 or more Lightsworn monsters with the same type but different names, banish 2 Lightsworn monsters from your graveyard, then target 2 cards in the field and banish them. If this card is sent from the deck to the graveyard by a Lightsworn monster's effect, you can special summon 1 Lightsworn monster from your hand. So, this is a very situational card. Lightsworns have many monster types. I think the most common ones are spellcasters and warriors. They run some beast warriors, they run some beasts, they run some dragons, but most of them are spellcasters and warriors. And you have to have 2 different monsters with the same type here, so you could have... The best way to do this is Lumina. You play Lumina, and then you bring out a Lila Twilight Sworn, so you have 2 different spellcasters there. because the warriors don't really do anything in helping themselves get on the board. Another condition is having two light sworns in the graveyard to banish two cards on the board. So you have to have two of those to even banish two. Banish two is a pretty nice ability, frankly, but um, it's a bit situational. It's mostly having those two monsters of the different things on the board to get the ability off. But Lumina and Delilah Twilight Sworn's not that hard. There's an additional ability. This card gets milled. You can special summon a card from your hand. But overall, I think this is a little too conditional. I think with Light Sworns, you're trying to limit the number of trap cards you have in general because they're a spell deck. And if they're going towards spell specialist, you're going to run 6 different spells plus the extra Charge of the Light Brigades and extra solar recharges. So you're trying to limit the number of trap cards, heavy monster presence, some spell cards, and this one you'll have to build your deck with monster type. You'll have to limit the number of beasts and beast warriors. And there are core beasts and beast warriors in Light Sworns, and you're trying to match those spellcasters and warriors. There's a lot going on. Maybe this will sneak in eventually. We're only getting one of this card, so it doesn't hurt the deck too much if you have this card. But its activation effect, the stipulation of activation could be too much that this just bricks your hand the whole time. And never really accounts to anything. So, unfortunately, that is the case with Twilight Eraser. Get to Blair Flannigan's unique duel skills, and unfortunately, these 4 duel skills are mostly irrelevant. Only you. Select one Maiden in Love you control during your opponent's next turn. As long as this Maiden in Love remains in face-up attack, the opponent can only attack this card. The skill can only be used once per duel. This is a 1-turn stall with you and your Maiden with Cupid's Kiss, threatening to steal your opponent's monsters. Unfortunately, there's too much removal in the game nowadays. It's hard to rely on this battle-dependent strategy. Yeah, not much to say about that. Maiden of Iron. Have the battle damage you take from battles involving Maiden in Love. So this keeps you in the game longer because the Maiden has to be played in attack mode, but it suffers the same problem. You're going to be playing this archetype where the Maiden in Love can just be removed, and it's an irrelevant strategy, but it helps keep you in the game a bit longer. Not even that. It's the Maiden has to be equipped with the Cupid's Kiss, so there's multiple things going on that could screw up. Maiden in Love. Select one or more monsters your opponent controls, up to the number of Maiden in Love cards you control. Then place a Maiden counter on each monster you selected. This skill can only be used once per duel. This puts those counters on the enemy monsters, but this has no effect on stealing them with Cupid's Kiss. It just puts a counter on them for some reason. It doesn't do anything other than that. Finally, Maiden in Action. When you take control of an opponent's monster with the effect of Cupid's Kiss, gain life points equal to the attack of the monster you took control of. So this is a life point gain skill. Again, it depends on the same strategy. It just doesn't really work. Not much to say about this, really. It's just, yeah. Okay, so that's that's as bad as it gets for unique duel skills. Let's see what else she has. His restart, she has Holy Guard, Fairy Smile, Attack Charge, Level Aug, Life Points Boost Alpha. Overall, I don't expect Blair Flannigan to see a ton of play in the ranked setting, unfortunately. I don't know, I could be completely wrong. This Maiden thing could be a deck down the line, but it doesn't seem that way to me. Alright. Upcoming news, the end of the podcast now. Mid-March, which should be next week. Raid Duel Netherworld cometh, Wiracocha Raska with new cards, Dark Salvo and Passion of Baimasi. Mid-March, Tour Guides Mission Bingo, Howling Insect. Mid-March, Duelist Challenges, Late March, we get to acquire Carly Carmine with Fortune Fairy and Temperance of Prophecy. Late March, Professional Aster. New cards D-Mind and D-Time. And the KC Cup begins at the last day of the month. So, these schedules are all about a game. So, it's not a real world situation. Luckily, this game lives in a digital world. Things shouldn't be canceled like they are in real life. It's hard to say down the line, but this game will just keep chugging along, it seems, unless Konami puts a stop to their workforce or something, but that doesn't seem to be the case. We're living in very uncertain times, and I wish everyone well in navigating through these times. So that is it for the podcast. Listen and subscribe anywhere on your favorite podcast listening things. Just search the Duel Assessment Podcast or the Duel Assessment. Check out the podcast and more at the website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. Email me with anything, theduelassessment@gmail.com, or Twitter, duel_assessment, me at Green Rangers CCG. Stay safe, everyone, and see you next time.